Happy rainy Sunday to you. It is the day before Election Day. We are on our last couple of items in our 15 priorities that I've identified: knocking on doors, talking to you, thinking about things, having many conversations, meeting people in the business community, meeting residents, meeting nonprofit representatives, all kinds of conversations that I've had. And so you can look at the previous 13, the last two, and these are in no particular order, but really, really important piece here is the two-way street of communications between residents and the council. And this kind of thing doesn't just happen on its own. And I think that's a really important piece to bring to the table here the day before election. Which is that establishing that two-way street and making that part of the culture of council, engaging residents. You know, a lot of governments, it's kind of you could say it's like a dark humor piece of governmental affairs is, the need to consult the public. Eye roll, eye roll. We're going to do this thing. A bunch of people are going to be opposed to it until we explain it, right? This is why PR, public relations, is so important. That's why some governments spend millions of dollars on public relations. Thankfully, it doesn't need to come to that in local politics and municipal affairs for sure. What it means, though, is what I talked about the last few days is a transparent government, a mayor that is fulfilling the role of mayor, which is to communicate from the residents into the council and do service and leadership that way. And then also to take the information that council is discussing and really make it understandable to the residents. And I've been demonstrating that on videos where I talk about what is on the agenda before a council meeting, what is on the agenda after a meeting. And I will continue to do that as your mayor, because making that information digestible and understandable in plain language is a really, really important piece of this role and what makes a municipality work. So you'll hear many candidates say, I'm not coming at you with a list of promises, which is very apropos because as especially as a mayoral candidate, but any member of council, no one person has all the power. This is the way it's supposed to work. We do not live in a system where the mayor makes the decisions. If you think that, you've just been watching too many American TV shows or movies. That is not how it works in New Brunswick. The mayor is just a member of council. But what is really, really important to remember is that the mayor can commit to a standard operating procedure for themselves. And when I was thinking back in January, I mentioned a bit of this yesterday, but when I came up with that kind of 5-part rubric of decision-making and communication, I also thought, what does St. Stephen need in a mayor right now, aside from someone who just communicates really well? And the other thing that is needed right now is someone who is committed to building up St. Stephen, not just the infrastructure, but our spirit, our community spirit, our trust in each other. And that's why I mentioned that yesterday. If you want to go back, if you missed it, yesterday was all about the trustworthiness of your local government. Verify, then trust, then verify. But that verification piece is a critical role when it comes to trust. But I can commit to, as your mayor, at least 4 kind of standard operating procedures when it comes to myself. Obviously, when it comes to council, I would want to see a certain level of conduct. There is a standard of conduct that a code of conduct that your council needs to sign on to. That is fully available for you to access. It's literally a bylaw. And that means you as residents get treated with a certain level of professional expectation by your council. Many councillors talk about how, unfortunately, it does not go the other way. Residents often can be, not often, some residents can be quite abusive to their elected representatives, and all the while the elected representatives are expected to conduct themselves with professionalism and decorum. But what we can ask is for that mutual respect. But honestly, a lot of the most angry residents of, let's say, St. Stephen are folks who feel like they have been ghosted or not heard, not listened to. Their voices don't matter. They have been ignored by council, whether it's emails or calls, can't get through, can't get access to information. And so, I think about myself as someone who runs a business. If my customers were enraged at me, thankfully, the only time that's ever happened is through misunderstanding. But a handful of times someone has been enraged at me because, for example, they didn't get the product that they paid for, and then, not reaching out to me properly. They were enraged, and then, of course, I found out about it. Oh my gosh, make it right, etc. And I've been on the receiving end of that with companies as well. I'm thinking of like unpleasant airline experiences, for example, where, you expect a certain level of service, but then you're marooned, and then you're canceled, and then you are, all night in an airport hangar, that kind of thing, and it doesn't seem like they care about you at all. Well, then you get upset, right? And so as somebody who pays into this corporation that we call the Municipal District of St. Stephen, if you as a ratepayer are not feeling like you are heard, that your concerns are validated and verified, it can be quite emotional. And so I want to make sure that I'm the kind of mayor and with this council, this next coming council, that we're turning down the temperature on people getting really upset. Now, I've said it before, there is so much room for disagreement, but can we disagree without being disagreeable? I would certainly hope so. And I would say a lot of council meetings that I've attended and observed in other municipalities, before they begin their public comment period, for example, there will be a statement just reminding that the council is bound to a code of conduct. We ask that the public, your statements be respectful, not accusatory, focused on the issue at hand, that kind of thing. And so I really believe that, of course, there will always be people who abuse social media or any sort of platform and do get abusive, but I am not averse to receiving that kind of feedback. I understand that some days we are not all at our best, but ultimately we want a place where we can air our concerns. So 4 ways that I'm going to make sure I do that as your mayor, and then of course in discussing with council ways that they can also accommodate. But the first one would be coming on here, being active on social media. Because again, no matter what kind of comments or feedback, and I've been subject to lots of abuse throughout this campaign, but that's okay. That comes with the territory. And again, I'm not put off by that. I actually welcome it as an opportunity to meet someone's emotions, sometimes with the facts and information that they are lacking and that they need. So I will be on social media creating videos like this. The only I'll do it often, but I would say I will be on here at least before every council meeting explaining the agenda. And yes, that's both the committee of the whole meeting where there's discussion and the regular council meeting where decisions are made. I would take that agenda and I would come on here and explain what's on the agenda and actually encourage folks to prepare public comments. Use the public comment period that will exist both at the committee of the whole and the regular council meeting. I want to see those at both, because it's important that that residents like yourself, like you and me, get up there and can air our concerns, ask council to consider something, and I've seen that done really well over the last 2 years of me attending council meetings, where sometimes I have spoken, I've seen others speak, and it's really important. Sometimes when they say, I'm really concerned about this, council, have you thought about that? Please take this into account when you're making a decision. So I'll come on before every council meeting. I will invite people to attend public comment period and kind of prep for that. Say, this is on the agenda. I'd love you to think about that. What are our blind spots? And then after the council meetings as well, I'll discuss what we discussed, why decisions were made, and sometimes I may not agree with the council, but I've always said there's a distinction between support and agreement. And it is okay when your council votes 4-3 for something where there were 3 dissenting voices, but at the end of the day, we agree to move forward because that's how it works. And that could happen with this council. When you look at the different candidates, there might be a lot of 4-3, one way or the other. But but we support the decision. And once a decision is made, we move forward with it because you elected this council, whatever council that may be. And so that's the kind of thing I would like to explain in videos as that role of mayor, where the mayor is expected to communicate on behalf of council to the public. The other thing that I would like to do, as I said, kind of rolled into that, the public comment periods. I want to see both meetings have public comment periods where, you'll have about 3 minutes per person, maybe maximum of 12 minutes or something like that. I really think it's important to have proper boundaries around public comment period, but not restrict public comment period to certain topics or make it difficult, make people have to jump through hoops to take that forum and speak publicly to their council. This is a really important place to do that. But in addition to that, I will also, this is the third thing, is conduct quarterly mayoral town halls. I really think that that's crucial. I know Ward 1 has been doing that in the rural ward with that committee led by Councillor Greenlaw. And so, I've attended those, and that's a really important place for people to just conversationally, Councillor Greenlaw would give some information, but then, people could question that information or say, I had this experience with the property on my property. I'm concerned about this bylaw. How do I go to the planning office? It's a place to get questions asked and answers. I love that engagement. And again, in terms of turning down the temperature, that's a really crucial piece. So I would want to see that mayoral town halls, but then also ward town halls as well, where I'm sure that rural ward town hall is not going anywhere, and that committee, it would be nice to see one in the urban ward as well. And of course, as mayor, I would attend those. But I think it's really positive when your councillors who you elected in your ward take that leadership position to share information. The more communication, the better. And I don't think we should be afraid of those kinds of ward committees sharing information with residents. So I really love that. But as mayor, I'd love to see quarterly mayoral town halls. And of course, I will attend other town halls as they are hosted by candidates if that were to happen. And then the last thing is there would be a quarterly mayoral report, because whether we can get a website that more adequately communicates our projects, again, that 5-point rubric, here's what we're working on and here's where it is. Are we in the understanding phase? Are we in the planning phase? Are we in the deliberation phase? Are we in the adapt and adopt phase, or are we in the building phase? And we will always have, I'd say, a number of things on the go, 5, 6, 7. We want to, with your council, prioritize the order in which we're tackling these things. But I'd love to communicate that either with a really clear page, like a website page, but at the very least, a quarterly report on here's what we're working on, here's the progress we've made. We do see, like, every month there's reports, the mayor's report and the councilor's reports. That is a voluntary thing, and usually it's just a list of activities that they did that month. I went to this, I went to that, I listened to that, I went to this meeting, I went to that event, which is fine, because that way you know how they are involved in the community and exactly what they did that month. But I'd like to see a more structured report where it is basically, here's where we are in our goals. First thing I want to work on is your strategic plan. So how do you plan the strategic plan? How is that coming along? How are we getting aligned with the business improvement area, for example? How are we getting aligned with the Chamber of Commerce, with Future St. Stephen, getting on the same page with that? Where are we at with our age-friendly communities? Where are we at with the roads? Where are we at with that hotel? So just off the top of my head, I can think of a few things that are in process right now, and you should know where those things are, let alone our major water upgrades that the province is going to want to see, higher quality water standards. And again, as a resident municipality, I'm very glad for that, but that means we've really got to figure out how to fund that and get that built in the days to come. So that is what I plan to do in terms of my commitments around being someone who is leading a council you can trust. So this kind of is a bit of a part 2 from yesterday, but it's also a piece of what it means to be mayor and leading a council that is communicative with you, making sure we are building up each other and creating an environment where we can debate and we can deliberate and we're not afraid of that, but it is done in a very constructive way. Ultimately, I think the way to make sure that we are always being constructive with our feedback and our criticism is to always ask yourself, am I complaining? Sure, that's fine. We're not afraid of that because, as I said yesterday, pain is the way that you know something is not quite right. But then always bringing solutions. ABS, I've just said that kind of like as a mantra. ABS, I'm always bringing solution, always thinking solutions. Am I complaining, but then do I have an idea? And again, that's not your job necessarily as the residents. That's why you vote in a council. And so that's why council needs to be thinking about, and members of council, some people who might have run with grievances, they're not happy with things, well, then you find yourself in a council chair and you say, oh my gosh, I'm the solution bringer now. Thankfully, we have staff. Thankfully, we have full-time experts. We have the Southwest Service Commission. So the council is not always responsible for coming up with the bright ideas. I love doing jurisdictional scans. I love talking to the people who do this full-time. It's important for council to kind of go both ways in that sense of like, we're going to decide what gets done, but there are experts and other voices at the table to consult. That is the mark of a successful council, is that two-way communication, that standard of conduct, that high professional excellence with the public, and then understanding together that we need to always be thinking solution to the problem, and evidence-based solutions are all around us. We just need to find our way through every challenge and pick the best one as we build up St. Stephen and build up each other. Create this environment where we trust each other and we're working together to a better St. Stephen. All right, that is it. Tomorrow is election day. Please make a plan to vote. Buildupststephen.ca is my website. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow on our last video, Election Day. Take care of yourself and your neighbor today, and let's build up St. Stephen together. Cheers.